Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the channel, and today we are taking a look at the SKYSTARS X140. It is the 140mm micro FPV racing drone do-it-yourself kit. So let's open up the box and check this baby out. Alright, so let's go ahead and open up the box. I know on the box it says VX140, but the product page does say X140, and on the box itself it also says it is by UFO FPV Systems, but on the web page it says SKYSTARS, so I guess they're kind of sharing the same product. So let's open up the box and check it out. We got some motors right off the bat, and taking a look here, it's got the SKYSTARS logo, and it's got the kV ratings on this side here, and they are the 1306 3100 kV motors. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 motors for quadcopter. And the next one looks like the side plates and the top and the bottom plates for the build on the frame. And what do we got here? It is the LED light and the buzzer fixture with a couple of zip ties, and we also have some prop nuts as well as a bunch of motor screws is what this is looking like. Okay, next up we have the arms. All right, and these arms supposed to measure in at, I believe, 3 or 4 millimeters. We'll check it out. And we got some standoffs and some associated screws. And what we have here, we have the stack. It is a tri-level stack. It's got the 4-in-1s on the bottom. We got the flight controller in between, and it looks like we got the VTX on the top, and we got some documentations to go along with it, so nice. And we also have the camera, and it is looking like the RunCam Micro Swift, but it is obviously a copy of it. It doesn't have any markings, so that is good though. It is a CCD camera, I'm pretty sure. And we got one battery strap, and oops, looking like cable harness with a couple of screws, looking like the camera cable harness, probably with a couple of screws to hold it in place. That came separately from the camera. And here's some props, some blue 4-bladed props. I believe these are 30 by 30s, and we got a set of yellow props as well, so put that on the side. And that is everything that comes in the box. So let's go ahead and lay it all out, open it all up, and check it out. Okay, I took some stuff out of the bag, laid them out on the table. Here's the camera, there's the harness for it, here's the prop nut screws and the props right here. Here are the motors, standoffs, the arms, the top and the bottom, and the side plate, the camera plate as well, and the LED and the flight controller stack. And one thing I noticed is missing is the power cable that is going to be connected to the ESC. So there's no battery connector. You're going to have to supply your own with this whole setup, do-it-yourself kit. And it does come with all kinds of receiver harness wires and stuff like that, and some standoff screws to hold the stack down from the bottom. So that's that. So let's go ahead and first of all put the frame together. Okay, I got the frame stuff all decked out on the table here. This plate here looks like it is going to be the bottom plate, and on both sides is just about the same. There's no chamfered edges or grooved holes or anything like that. So that's the bottom. This looks like the top plate where the VTX connector goes. So this is the top, and this should be the hold down on the arms. So let's go ahead and put those two together and check it out. So this one goes on the top here, and the arms are going in kind of like that. So there's the 3 holes lining up. So let's put some screws together. Okay, so we got the basic bottom base built in with the arms, so looking pretty good. Now let's go ahead and check the rest of the stuff out. Okay, these nuts keep spinning while I'm trying to tighten it. So get a little hemostat and hold it in place and give it a nice torque. Okay, everything is tightened up. The standoffs are nice and tight, as well as the mid plate and the bottom plate holding the arms are all tight. These nuts and the corresponding screws have been all tightened up, but I see a problem here. As you can see, the stack will go through that hole right there, and that is part of the arm as well. Remember, there was 3 holes on the arm. So if you break an arm, you're going to have to remove this one, you're going to have to remove this one, and you're going to have to remove the stack screw as well. So you got to remove 3 screws if you break an arm. So take a note of that. Okay, so the bottom portion of the frame is built, and here's the top plate. The top plate goes on just like so. I'm not going to put it on yet, but there's the 4 screws, but they give you 5. So I'm assuming they gave you 1 extra screw here, and these are the little side plates for your camera mount, and they should be going right up in the front, something like here in that little groove on the bottom right here, like that, and the little groove on the top plate like so. They're just going to be sandwiched down. There's no screw holding it down, so that is good to go. Okay, so let's take a look at the all-in-one system. We got the transmitter on the top with the dipole whip antenna, and we got a single button to change the channel frequency and the power output, and the power output is switchable from 25 to 150 milliwatts, and it is a 40 channel VTX, so very nice. And I can see that we got accompanying documentation to show us the channel lineup and how to go about changing the channel, the frequency, and the power output. So there's the VTX on the top. In the middle, there's the flight controller. It's a F3 board, pre-flashed with omnibus firmware. I believe it's 3.1.7 that is pre-flashed with, and there's the micro USB port. Right next to it, there's another port there. That's probably for the receiver, and it supports DSM, PPM, and S-Bus. And up on this side, we got a couple more ports here, and I believe this is the LED, and this one here is for the buzzer, and I'm not sure what that is. We'll see in the documentation what that one is. Probably for the VTX, or the, I'm sorry, not the VTX, but for the camera. So there you have all the ports. You don't need to do any soldering for those things. Already comes assembled like this, with the ESC and the flight controller stack already connected, so you don't have to worry about anything. The only thing you have to worry about is soldering on the motors. So here's the ESCs, and it is the 4-in-1 BLHES 20 amp ESCs with 25 amp bursts. So we are able to fly it with 2 all the way up to 4S batteries, and there's the battery pads right there. So let's go ahead and take a look at those battery pads, which one's positive and which one's negative here. Okay, so I can kind of see that there's a small little negative on the left pad and a small little positive on the right pad. So there you go, there's the negative and the positive. All of the motor pads are shown on the bottom as well as from the top. So you can choose whether or not you want to solder on the motors from the top or solder them on the bottom. So we'll figure it out a little bit later. So since the battery pads are right here, so that is the rear of the ESCs. So that's the rear. So let's go ahead and bring the quadcopter. So that'll be the rear. So that is the front. So do we have any markings on the flight controller. Yes, we do. I can already see it right there. Let me zoom in. There's that little arrow, and it's pointing to the left, which is the battery pad location. So pointing that way. So it has to have a 180-degree rotation in Betaflight firmware. Don't forget to do that. All right, so that's just about it for the stack. Very, very nice. So it's going to go right here with the accompanying screws right down here, those 4 little ports, and you are able to slide the battery strap. Tons of room for the battery strap below and above. Wow, yeah, very, very nice. So that is just about it for that. So let's look at the documentation that came with it. Shows you the transmitter and how to go about changing the channels, the frequency, and the power output, and all of the frequency lineup. And there's also a diagram of the transmitter as well. Up on the opposite side, there's the diagram of the flight controller. That's what it's looking like. So yeah, let's see if it all matches up. So that's the USB, and that's the receiver tabs, in which this one already has a port, so we don't have to solder on anything at all. And there's the LED, there's the buzzer, and in the back we have the camera, and we have the transmitter, in which, yeah, there's header pins connecting the top and the bottom, the transmitter onto the flight controller. So everything is good to go. All we got to do is plug and play, solder on the motor wires, and solder on the battery cable, and we are good to go. Okay, I got a couple of choices on the motor wire situation here. So I can either place the motor wires on the side, just cut them right here, and just solder them on directly to the top of the ESC, or I can wrap it around and hide it like so, and solder them onto the bottom of the ESCs. And I think what's going to look nicer is this particular way, to go wrapping around and soldering them on the bottom of the ESC, so none of the wires are exposed on the side of the quadcopter. So what I'm going to do is, since I have to bend these wires and wrap it around those standoffs, what I'm going to do is cut them directly right here, so all of them are equal lengths this way, and then tin them, and then go ahead and solder them onto the ESCs. I'm just going to go ahead and snip off these 2 wires to make it around the same length, just like that, and restrip them and tin them, and it should be just perfect. All right, so here is the layout that I want. So here's the board facing the correct way. So what's going to happen is I'm going to have to flip it over. So I'm just going to go ahead and flip over the flight controller like so. So everything just kind of has to go flipping over as well. So this motor is going to go right here, and this motor is right here, and this motor is on this side, upside down, of course. So that is going to be the way I'm going to solder it on. Not this way, but like that, and this one like that. All right, so let's go ahead and solder on the motors. All right, I got all of the motor wire soldered on, and I'm going to be using an XT30 connector, and I've got this cable here from an old battery that doesn't provide any power anymore, so slit off the cable on that. It's got a Dean's plug on this one. I'm just going to be cutting the cable off of it and using the cable on this one because I don't have any appropriate size cable. So it's kind of an overkill for the XT30. Looks like this could be a perfect diameter for an XT60 actually. So I got the female and the male connector. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug both of them in together, because while you're soldering on, it might move a little bit because of the heat. So it's always good to connect the opposite side. In case you're doing the female, connect the male in it. In case you're doing the male, connect the female in it, so the inside plugs don't move around while you're soldering. Okay, just trying to measure out how long I need to cut the battery cable here. So that's the back of the ESC. The pads are right here. So I'm going to solder it on right around there. And I'm going to probably zip tie the cable onto the hind leg. And I still want a little bit of room. So perfect size. If I cut right around here, that should give me plenty of room to solder on the XT30s. So right around here. All right, let's strip them and tin them and solder them on. All right, got the XT30 in my monkey wrench, tightened up. So putting a little solder. That would be the positive. And let's hit the negative. Okay. All right, we're ready to go. And let's go ahead and hit this baby here. Let it melt and let it cool off. That should do the job. Okay. Okay, I think that'll work. Done. And now take off the male portion. Now it's nicely done. So got a couple of strips of heat shrink. Wait a little bit until this area cools down, and then go ahead and put the heat shrink and then put some hair dryer action on there to shrink it in place. All right, got the cable heat shrunk to the XT30, so looking pretty nice now. So got the other end tinned up and got the battery pads tinned up, so ready to go ahead and solder it onto the battery pads, negative on the left and positive on the right. So we're gonna hit the negative first, and just like that right there. So let's go ahead and all right, that should be good. So do it just like right there. Just kind of hold it down until everything is melting and let go. All right, looks like it is on. Looking pretty good. All right, we are back and everything is attached to the frame itself. The battery on my phone was just about to kill over, so I had to charge it. And during that time, I've attached everything onto the frame, and all it was just those 4 screws to hold down the stack right onto the standoffs, and the motor screws as well. All provided 4 screws per motor. So that was very easy to do, and that is all I did so far, and it is looking pretty nice. And as you can see, the motor wires are just about the right length. Yeah, if I snipped off a little bit more, I would have been in trouble. And the power cable is just the right length as well. I'm kind of liking that gauge, nice and thick, so we shouldn't have any problems, especially with the XT30 connector. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to probably put some electric tape to hold down the motor wires, and I'm probably going to put a zip tie to hold down the battery cable to the hind right leg, just like that. And we have a few more items to take care of. We're going to have to attach a receiver. I'm probably going to use a FrSky XM receiver for this build, and we're still going to have to attach the LED and the buzzer combination, and we're also going to have to attach the camera as well. So let's go ahead and take care of those items. Okay, so I got all of the wire harnesses attached to the flight controller, so I'm trying to figure out how it's going to go about. So here is the camera attachment wire. So here's the camera. It's just going to attach to the back of the camera just like that, and the camera is going to be sitting right up in the front, so we have no problem, just the perfect length. So that is nice. Here are the LED and the buzzer wires, but this is the front of the quadcopter because of the flight controller being flipped over. So here's the buzzer apparatus, the buzzer board with the LED fixture. So this is going to go in the back. It's going to get zip tied onto the hind standoffs just like that. So I need to route these wires to the back and solder them onto those pads. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide it through there, that small little hole there, and see if I can make it come out the opposite side, and I'll solder it onto the board, pre-tin them beforehand, and then just place it right here. So that should be no problem. Now here's the opposite side. This is the receiver harness, and I'm going to be using the XM receiver, so it already has pads on the XM receiver, so I'm not going to go too far with it. And here's the top plate. So the top plate's going to go like that, and here's the VTX antenna that's going to go through this antenna hole there. So that is looking pretty good. So there's tons of room underneath of the board, on the top board, the top plate, or above the transmitter, but I don't want to double side sticky tape something to the transmitter. So what I'm going to do is solder this baby on, and then I'm going to just double side sticky tape it to the bottom of the top plate, and if it doesn't hold, then I'll put a little zip tie to hold it down. So that should be no problem. So the amount of wiring is just about right as well, so I'll have lots of room with the length of the wiring. So let's go ahead and do all that. All right, so I got all of the wires tinned up. There you go, the receiver wires tinned up and the LED wires tinned up, and I routed it underneath of the transmitter, so it is now sticking out of the back. And I got the LED light fixture already tinned up, ready to go. So let's go ahead and put those together. Just going to place it right here, so easy to solder everything on. So we got 4 wires. One of them is the buzzer negative here, and we got the LED, we got the 5-volt, and we got the ground. So very easy, straightforward. So we're gonna go and hit that ground first. So let's go ahead and grab that ground. Okay, stay there please. And just a matter of soldering it on right here. There you go. Next up is the 5-volt for the LED. Okay, just twirling the LED light fixture to make the wires a little shorter, and place it right here and put a couple of zip ties to hold it in place. Run a little zip tie to the other side. There you go. All right, we are ready to go with the receiver. I got the XM receiver right there, ready to go on my little monkey wrench vise. And looking at the FR Sky documentation, so we got the S bus on the top, we got the 5-volt and then the ground. So S bus on the top, 5-volt in the middle, and on the bottom is the ground. So let's go ahead and tin this baby up first. Okay, so I have the receiver harness ready to go. So we got we're going to do it this way because that's the correct way. S bus, 5-volt, and ground. Okay, done. Okay, here's the XM receiver heat shrunk and attached back to the board. So we are good on the receiver. Now let's go ahead and check out the camera. All right, so here is the camera and here are the side plates. It's going to go like right here, and there's a couple of provided screws to screw it on. And after it has done, it's going to go fitting right in front of the quadcopter just like that. Okay, so I'm learning as I'm going along. You have to kind of pre-drill, so to speak, the holes because it's a brand new hole. So it doesn't quite fit. It's not pre-drilled in there. So you're going to have to kind of prime the hole before you actually attach it. So be careful when you do this, not to slip and damage the board. So you kind of have to make the new thread into the plastic. Look at that, I'm going slightly crooked already, but that should do the job. So once you have done that, remove the screw, line it up. So we got the 5-volt ground and video, so it's going to go in just like that. Okay, so the bottom is in flush and the motor wires do clear just enough. All right, at this point I'm not going to mess around with the camera anymore, so I'm just going to go ahead and put the top plate on because it was very difficult to get that bottom, the portion of the side plates on there. So let's go ahead and just put the top plate on. I'll worry about the receiver a little bit later. So routing the VTX antenna, and let's see if we can get this thing to pop right in on this side. There you go, clicked it into place. All right, and our camera is still functionable. Yes, it's moving up and down, and we are in, so that is good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and put the top screws to mount the top plate down. All right, we are just about done. So we got tons of space underneath of the top plate, and that is probably where I'm going to mount the XM receiver. Probably going to twirl it around, put a double-sided sticky tape, stick it underneath, and maybe we can tie it down with a zip tie as well. All right, so we're just about done. All right, so we got the voltmeter set on the continuity test mode. So let's go ahead and check it out. Make sure there is no short in the system. All right, we are good to go. So let's go ahead and plug in the battery and see if she powers up. All right, so we got a battery here ready to power it up. So let's go ahead and power it up for the very first time. Yes, everything is powered up. We even have LED lights, and as you can see, the XM receiver is blinking away, and the VTX is circling through its channels. Nice. And yeah, we got the flight controller light on too. So everything is working. So let's go ahead and unplug it. So thank you very much. No smoke, very good. So I think we should call it quits for today on this part of the build video. I'm going to go ahead and continue on the next part. We're going to go ahead and bind it to a transmitter, set it all up, and take it out for a flight test. So that is it for now. So thank you so much for tuning in and watching, guys. Have a great day, and we'll see you again next time.